The morning air on New Hope smelled like rain and wildflowers. Jiwoo stepped carefully through the tall grass near the settlement's edge. Her parents always told her not to go too far from home, but she loved exploring. At 8 years old, she knew every rock and tree within the safe zone. Today, she wanted to see what lay just beyond it. The colony had been on this planet for 3 years now. Her parents were scientists who studied plants. They lived in a small research station with a dozen other families. Beyond their fence line, the wilderness belonged to the Vral. Everyone feared the Vral. They were massive creatures with scales and fur, sharp teeth and claws that could tear through metal. The adults called them monsters and predators. Jiwoo had only seen them from far away, moving like shadows through the forest. She pushed through a patch of thornwood bushes, careful not to scratch her arms. The settlement was getting smaller behind her. She knew she should turn back, but something made her keep walking. Maybe it was the strange sound she heard. A low, painful whimpering that made her heart hurt. Jiwoo froze when she saw it. 20 meters ahead, near a fallen tree, a young Vral was thrashing on the ground. It was smaller than the adults she had seen before, but still huge. As big as the transport vehicles back home. Its body was covered in dark blue scales that shimmered like metal. Thick fur covered its back and shoulders. 4 powerful legs ended in claws that dug into the earth. The creature's head looked like a wolf mixed with something ancient and terrible, but right now it did not look terrible. It looked hurt and scared. The cub kept shaking its head violently from side to side. Blood dripped from its nostril. Jiwoo crept closer, staying low. Her heart pounded so hard she could hear it in her ears. Every safety lesson she had ever learned screamed at her to run. But the creature was suffering and she could not look away. When she got closer, she saw the problem. A massive thornwood spike, as long as her arm, had lodged deep inside the cub's right nostril. Every time the creature moved, the thorn pushed deeper. Blood stained the ground beneath it. The cub's amber eyes were wild with pain and panic. Jiwoo looked back toward the settlement. She could run home and tell the adults, but they would not help. They would probably try to kill the creature or leave it to die. She looked forward again. In the distance, between the trees, she saw movement, large shapes moving through the shadows. Adult Vral. They would be here soon. She had maybe 2 minutes to decide. The smart choice was to run. The safe choice. The choice every adult would make. But Jiwoo had always been different. Her mother said she had too much heart for her own good. Her father said she saw the world the way it should be, not the way it was. She stood up and walked toward the cub. The creature saw her immediately. Its body went rigid. A low growl rumbled from its chest so deep Jiwoo felt it in her bones. The cub's lips pulled back, showing teeth as long as her fingers. Each tooth could end her life in a second. One swipe of those claws would cut her in half. Jiwoo stopped walking but did not run. She held up her hands slowly, showing they were empty. Then she did something that felt right even though it made no sense. She started humming. It was a song her mother sang when Jiwoo was scared. A gentle melody without words. The cub's growling faded slightly. Its eyes, still wide with pain, focused on her. Jiwoo took another step forward. Then another. She kept humming, keeping her voice soft and steady. Sweat ran down her back despite the cool morning air. Her legs wanted to run, but she forced them to keep moving forward. When she was close enough to touch the creature, she stopped. The cub watched her with those strange amber eyes. Intelligence lived behind those eyes. Not animal cunning, but real understanding. Jiwoo realized with a shock that this creature was thinking, measuring, deciding whether to trust her or kill her. She knelt down slowly in the bloody grass. The cub's hot breath washed over her face. It smelled like meat and earth. She reached out one shaking hand toward the thorn. The creature flinched but did not pull away. Jiwoo wrapped her small fingers around the base of the spike where it entered the nostril. The cub whimpered, a sound so heartbreaking that tears filled Jiwoo's eyes. She took a deep breath and pulled. The thorn did not move. It was wedged tight. She adjusted her grip and pulled harder, using her whole body weight. The cub's muscles tensed. Its claws dug deeper into the ground, but it held still. Jiwoo pulled with everything she had. Her arms burned. Her hand slipped on the blood-slick thorn. Then suddenly it came free. The spike was longer than she expected, with barbs along its length. Blood flowed freely from the wound now, but it was clean blood, not the dark, infected color from before. She fell backward, landing hard on the ground. The thorn rolled from her hands. The cub shook its massive head, then sneezed several times. More blood spattered the grass. But then the creature went still. It looked at Jiwoo where she sat in the dirt, covered in its blood. They stared at each other for a long moment. Jiwoo saw the pain fade from those amber eyes. Something else took its place. Recognition? Gratitude? She did not know. The cub took one step toward her. Then another. It lowered its enormous head until its nose was inches from her face. Jiwoo held perfectly still. The creature sniffed her hair, her face, her bloody hands. Its breath was warm and steady now, not the panicked gasps from before. Then it made a sound deep in its chest. Not a growl. A rumble like distant thunder, almost like a purr. The sound vibrated through Jiwoo's entire body. A roar exploded from the forest. The adult Vral were close now, probably drawn by the blood smell. The cub's head snapped up. It looked at Jiwoo one last time, and she swore she saw something like understanding in its eyes. Then it turned and ran into the forest on powerful legs. In seconds, it vanished into the shadows. Jiwoo stood up on shaking legs. She looked down at her hands. They were covered in blood that was not her own. Her clothes were ruined. Her parents would be furious when they saw her. But as she walked back toward the settlement, she felt something strange in her chest. Not fear, not regret. Something warm and bright and certain. She had just saved a life, and somehow she knew that life would matter. Behind her, hidden in the forest shadows, amber eyes watched her go. The cub called Kral by his pack stayed motionless until the small human disappeared from sight. Then he touched his wounded nostril with one claw. The pain was almost gone now. He did not understand why the tiny creature had helped him. His mother had taught him that humans were dangerous. They took land and killed without honor. They were to be feared and avoided. But this one had been different. This one had chosen courage over safety, compassion over fear. In Vral culture, a life debt was sacred, unbreakable. Kral turned and followed his pack deeper into the forest, but his mind stayed with the small human who had saved him. He would remember her scent. He would know her anywhere now. And if the time came, he would repay what she had given him. A Vral always honored their debts. 3 weeks passed since Jiwoo pulled the thorn from the creature's nose. She had not told anyone what happened that day. When her parents saw her bloody clothes, she said she fell into thornwood bushes. They believed her, though her mother worried and her father gave her a long talk about being more careful. Life at the settlement continued as normal. Her father, Dong-hyun, spent long hours in his laboratory studying plant samples. Her mother worked in the greenhouse trying to grow earth vegetables in alien soil. Jiwoo attended lessons with the other colony children in the morning and had free time in the afternoon. She always spent that time near the forest edge. Though she was careful not to cross the boundary again, strange things started happening around the 4th day after the encounter. Jiwoo woke one morning to shouting outside. She ran to the window and saw people gathered near the southern fence. A razorback had tried to enter the compound during the night. Razorbacks were local predators with spines like knives and jaws that could crush bone. This one was dead, its neck broken cleanly, but there were no bullet wounds, no signs that the automated defenses had killed it. The colony's security chief, a serious woman named Bo-Ra, examined the body. She found claw marks that did not match any earth animal. They matched Vral claws. But why would a Vral kill a razorback near the human settlement? It made no sense. Vral avoided humans. Everyone knew that. 2 days later, it happened again. This time, a pack of hooktails had approached from the east. Hooktails hunted in groups and were smart enough to avoid most defenses. The colonists found 3 of them dead in a line, each killed by massive claw strikes. Again, Vral claw marks. Again, no explanation, the adults whispered nervously. Some thought it was a warning. Others worried the Vral were testing their defenses before an attack. Security patrols doubled. Parents kept their children closer to home. But Jiwoo noticed something no one else did. Every dead predator was found near her family's residential unit. Every single one. On the 10th day, Jiwoo found the first gift. She was walking along the fence line after lessons, as she did every afternoon. Behind a large rock near her favorite spot, she found a small pile of fruit. Not earth fruit. These were silver fruit, a local plant that humans could eat. They were delicious, but only grew deep in Vral territory. Her father had tried for months to get samples, but never succeeded. The fruit were perfectly ripe and carefully placed. not scattered like a bird or animal would leave them. Jiwoo looked around. The forest was quiet, but she felt watched. Not in a scary way. In a safe way, if that made sense. She picked up one fruit and bit into it. Sweet juice filled her mouth. She smiled and spoke to the empty forest. "Thank you." A low rumble answered from the shadows between the trees. So quiet she almost missed it. But she knew that sound. She had heard it before, felt it vibrate through her chest. Her heart jumped with excitement and joy. "I know you are there," she said softly. "I am happy you are okay." The forest stayed silent, but Jiwoo knew she was right. The cub was watching over her, protecting her. The dead predators, the gifts, the feeling of safety she felt near the forest, it was all him. She started coming to the fence line every day. She would sit on her favorite rock and talk about her day, about lessons and her parents and the other children. She did not know if the creature understood her words, but she felt him listening. Sometimes she would find more gifts, silver fruit, smooth stones in pretty colors, once a shed Vral claw. As long as her hand and sharp as glass, Jiwoo kept everything hidden in a box under her bed. Her secret, her strange friend in the forest. On the 21st day, she finally saw him again. She was sitting on her rock, eating her lunch and telling a story about how one of the boys in her class got in trouble for putting a frog in the teacher's desk. Movement caught her eye. There, between two large trees, stood Kral. He was bigger now. Much bigger. He had grown fast in just 3 weeks. His scales gleamed dark blue in the dappled sunlight. The fur on his back rippled in the breeze. His amber eyes watched her with that same intelligent gaze she remembered. The nostril where the thorn had been showed only a small scar. Jiwoo slowly stood up. She did not approach the fence. She just smiled and raised one hand in greeting. Kral tilted his massive head, watching her gesture. Then he lifted one enormous paw and raised it slightly off the ground, copying her, learning from her. "You are smart," Jiwoo whispered. "I knew it. You understand, don't you?" Kral rumbled softly. He took one step closer to the fence, then stopped. He seemed to understand the boundary. The fence marked where human territory ended and Vral territory began. He would not cross it. Honor, Jiwoo realized. The creature understood honor and respect. From that day forward, they met every afternoon. Jiwoo would sit on her side of the fence. Kral would lie down on his side, close enough that she could see the individual scales on his face. She talked. He listened. Sometimes he would make sounds back, low rumbles and chirps and huffs that seemed to carry meaning. Jiwoo started to understand some of them. A short huff meant agreement. A low rumble meant contentment. A sharp chirp meant alertness or warning. She began bringing things to show him. Books with pictures. Her drawings. Small toys. Kral would examine everything with intense focus. Once she brought paper and colored pencils. She drew a picture of him and showed it to him. He stared at the drawing for a long time, then carefully touched it with one claw tip, so gently the paper barely wrinkled. Jiwoo tried to teach him to communicate more clearly. She would draw simple pictures in the dirt. A sun meant day. A moon meant night. She drew stick figures of humans and simple shapes for Vral. At first, she thought it was pointless. Then one afternoon, she arrived to find marks in the dirt on his side of the fence. Rough, made with claws but deliberate. Shapes. He was trying. Over the next week, their communication grew. It was crude and limited, but it worked. Through pictures and gestures, Kral told her things. His mother was pack leader. The Vral were not monsters. They were people with families and rules and honor. They feared humans because humans took land without asking. Humans killed Vral who were only hunting to feed their young. Jiwoo told him humans were scared too. The Vral were so big and strong. Humans did not understand them. Fear made people do terrible things. On the 40th day since the Thorn incident, everything changed. Jiwoo arrived at the fence to find Kral pacing nervously. He made urgent chirping sounds and pawed at the ground. Something was wrong. He drew frantically in the dirt. Jiwoo leaned close to the fence, trying to understand. She saw shapes. Human shapes with tools. Moving toward, she gasped. He was showing her humans going deep into Vral territory, past the treaty boundaries, into sacred hunting grounds. The mining team, Jiwoo breathed. She had heard her father arguing with Taemin, the mining administrator, about it. Taemin wanted to expand operations into the western valleys. Her father said it would anger the Vral. Taemin said the Vral did not matter. Progress mattered. Profit mattered. Kral drew more. Vral shapes. angry, ready to fight. If humans went into the sacred grounds, there would be war. Jiwoo felt ice in her stomach. She looked at her friend, this creature who had become the most important being in her life. What can we do? Kral stared at her with those amber eyes. He did not know. Neither did she. They were just a child and a young Vral. Who would listen to them? But as Jiwoo walked back to the settlement that evening, she knew she had to try. Because if humans and Vral went to war, Kral would be in danger. Her family would be in danger. Everything would be destroyed. The friendship they had built, this fragile bridge between two species, would burn. She had to find a way to stop it. She had to make the adults listen. But how could an 8-year-old girl change the minds of people who had already decided to hate and fear? That night, Jiwoo lay in bed staring at the ceiling. Outside her window in the dark forest, amber eyes watched her home. Kral had taken a position closer than ever before, ready to protect her if danger came. But he could not protect her from what was coming. War did not care about friendship. It did not care about one little girl and one young Vral who had dared to see past fear. The storm was coming, and neither of them was ready. The attack happened 3 days after Kral's warning. Jiwoo was in morning lessons when the alarms went off. The teacher, a kind woman named Subin, immediately moved all the children into the reinforced shelter. Through the small windows, Jiwoo saw people running. She heard shouting. Then she heard the sound that would haunt her dreams for years to come. Gunfire. The mining team had pushed into the western valleys at dawn. They ignored all warnings. Taemin had convinced the colony governor, Hyejin, that the Vral were primitive animals who would back down when faced with human technology. He was wrong. Terribly wrong. A Vral hunting party attacked the mining site. The Vral did not use weapons like guns or explosives. They did not need them. Their claws cut through the mining equipment like paper. Their speed made them almost impossible to target. Their intelligence meant they knew exactly where to strike to cause maximum damage. 3 human miners died in the first 2 minutes. 5 more were badly injured. The survivors ran back to the settlement with the Vral chasing them. Only the automated defense turrets stopped the attack from reaching the residential areas. The Vral retreated, but they had made their point. The sacred hunting grounds were not for taking. That evening, Governor Hyejin called an emergency assembly. Every adult in the colony gathered in the main hall. Jiwoo hid near the back with some other children listening. Her father, Dong-hyun, stood near the front with the other scientists. He looked tired and worried. Hyejin spoke first. She was a tall woman with gray hair and a face that usually showed kindness. But tonight her face was hard as stone. 3 of our people are dead. The Vral have proven they are hostile and dangerous. We can no longer coexist with them. I have sent a request to Earth Defense Coalition for military support. Until they arrive, we will maintain maximum security. No one goes beyond the fence. No exceptions. Murmurs of agreement ran through the crowd. Jiwoo felt sick. This was wrong. The humans had invaded Vral territory first. But no one seemed to care about that. Her father stood up. Governor, with respect, we provoked this attack. The Western Valleys are sacred to the Vral. Our surveys documented this. We knew expanding there would cause conflict. Perhaps if we withdraw and open communication, Taemin interrupted, standing aggressively. Communication? They are animals, Dong-hyun. They killed our people. My brother was in that mining team. My brother is dead because of those monsters. His voice broke with grief and rage. The crowd erupted in shouts. Some supported Dong-hyun's call for peace. Most sided with Taemin's anger. Jiwoo wanted to scream that the Vral were not monsters, that they were intelligent and honorable, that she knew one who was kind and gentle, but she was 8 years old and no one would believe her. The assembly ended with a vote. Military action was approved. The colony would prepare for war. Jiwoo ran to her room and cried. Everything was falling apart. She had to talk to Kral, had to warn him, but with the new security measures, she could not reach the fence line without being seen. Guards patrolled everywhere. The automated systems had been upgraded. She was trapped. 3 days later, the military arrived. The transport ship landed on the colony's southern field. 200 soldiers emerged, armed with weapons Jiwoo had only seen in movies. Leading them was Commander Bo-Ra, a woman who looked like she was carved from iron. She had scars on her face and arms. Her eyes showed no warmth, no doubt. She looked at the forest beyond the settlement like a hunter looking at prey. Jiwoo's father tried one more time to argue for peace. He brought his research to Commander Bora. He showed her evidence that the Vral were intelligent, that they had complex social structures, that they deserved to be treated as equals, not enemies. Bora listened politely, then dismissed everything. Dr. Dong-hyun, I respect your scientific perspective, but I am a soldier. My job is to protect human lives. Those creatures killed 3 people. They will kill more if given the chance. We will eliminate the threat. That is final. That night, Jiwoo made a decision. She had to reach Krall, she had to warn him, even if it meant breaking every rule, even if it meant putting herself in danger. She waited until her parents were asleep. Then she slipped out her window, the same way she had sneaked out before when she wanted to explore. The security systems focused outward, watching for threats coming in. They were not designed to stop a small child leaving. She moved through shadows, avoiding the patrol routes she had memorized over days of watching. It took her an hour to reach the fence line. Her heart pounded the entire time. If she was caught, she would be in terrible trouble. But Krall mattered more than trouble. She reached her usual spot by the rock. The forest was dark and quiet. For a moment she feared he would not come. Then she saw movement. Krall emerged from the trees, but he was not alone. Behind him, Jiwoo saw the massive shape of an adult Vral. Krall's mother, the pack leader. Jiwoo froze. The adult Vral Shrak was enormous, 3 times Krall's size. Her scales were darker, almost black. Scars marked her body, evidence of countless battles. Her amber eyes glowed in the darkness, fixed on Jiwoo. This creature could kill her in a heartbeat, but Krall moved between them, making soft sounds to his mother. Shrak growled low, clearly unhappy, but she did not attack. She watched, waiting. Jiwoo forced herself to breathe. She had to make them understand. She grabbed a stick and drew frantically in the dirt near the fence. Human shapes, many of them, with weapons, coming to attack. She drew the Vral territory and made slashing marks through it. Danger. Death. War. Krall understood immediately. He whined and turned to his mother, making urgent sounds. Shrak stepped closer to the fence. Jiwoo forced herself not to run. The massive Vral studied the drawings in the dirt. Then she looked at Jiwoo, really looked at her, and Jiwoo saw the same intelligence in Shrak's eyes that she saw in Krall's. This was not an animal. This was a mother, a leader, someone who understood exactly what was being communicated. Shrak made a deep, complex sound. Krall responded, then turned to Jiwoo. He began drawing in the dirt on his side. Jiwoo leaned close, trying to see in the darkness. The drawing showed Vral territory, but something was wrong there. Krall drew small Vral shapes lying down, not sleeping, dead or dying. He pointed to the settlement, then to the dying Vral. Then he drew plants, human plants. Jiwoo's eyes widened. The plants we brought here are hurting you? Making you sick? Krall huffed. Yes, agreement. Shrak made another sound and Krall drew more. The sacred hunting grounds were where the sickness had not spread yet, where their prey was still healthy, where cubs could be raised safely. That was why they needed humans to stay away. Not from hate, from survival, my father, Jiwoo whispered. He studies plants. He could help. He could fix this. She grabbed her own stick and drew rapidly. Human shapes meeting Vral shapes. No weapons. Talking. Peace. She drew healthy Vral and healthy humans side by side. She pointed to herself, then to Krall. Friends. We can be friends. We can help each other. Shrak watched the drawings. She made a long, mournful sound. Then she shook her massive head. She drew something that made Jiwoo's heart sink. Vral shapes. Angry, aggressive shapes. Young males who wanted war, not peace. She drew them attacking Shrak, challenging her leadership. If Shrak chose peace, they would overthrow her. The pack was too angry, too hurt by human expansion. They would not listen, Krall whined sadly. He touched his drawing with one claw, then pointed at Jiwoo. He drew her father, then drew meeting symbols again. But he also drew the aggressive young Vral finding them. Attacking. It was too dangerous. Jiwoo felt tears on her face. There has to be a way. There has to be. A light suddenly cut through the darkness. A spotlight from the settlement. Someone had seen her. Shouts erupted. Guards were running toward her position. Shrak snarled and grabbed Krall, pulling him back into the forest. Krall fought her, trying to stay, but she was too strong. In seconds, they vanished into the trees. Rough hands grabbed Jiwoo. A guard lifted her off her feet. "What are you doing out here? Don't you know how dangerous this is?" Jiwoo tried to explain, but her words came out in sobs. They carried her back to the settlement. Her parents were woken up. They were terrified and angry and confused. Jiwoo tried to tell them about the drawings, about the sickness, about how the Vral just wanted to protect their cubs. But in her panic and tears, nothing came out right. Her father thought she had been sleepwalking and had a nightmare. Her mother held her tight and cried. Commander Bora arrived and questioned her. When Jiwoo mentioned Kral, Bora's expression turned cold. She ordered guards to watch the family's residence. She suspected the Vral might be stalking Jiwoo, planning to hurt her. Everything was getting worse. The truth was right there, but no one could see it. Jiwoo lay in her bed that night under guard, unable to sleep. Through her window, she could see the forest. Somewhere out there, Kral was watching. Both of them were trapped by their own people's fear and anger. Both of them powerless to stop the war that was coming. The attack was scheduled for dawn in 3 days. Commander Bora would lead troops deep into Vral territory. They would destroy the main den, eliminating what she called the threat at its source. Taemin supported the plan eagerly. 2 days before the attack, Jiwoo stopped eating. Her parents worried, but they thought it was just stress from her nighttime adventure. They did not understand that she was breaking inside. She had information that could prevent war, but no one believed her. She was just a child who had wild dreams about befriending monsters. Her father spent long hours in his laboratory. He was working on something, but he would not tell Jiwoo what. Her mother tried to keep things normal, making meals and maintaining routines, but her smile never reached her eyes. The whole settlement felt heavy with tension. Everyone knew what was coming. On the evening of the second day, Subin came to visit. She was young for a teacher, only 23, and she had always been kind to Jiwoo. She brought cookies and sat with Jiwoo in her room while her parents worked. "I heard about your adventure," Subin said gently. "Your parents are worried about you." Jiwoo looked down at her hands. "No one believes me. No one listens. Tell me," Subin said. "I will listen." So Jiwoo told her everything. About saving Kral, about their friendship, about the drawings and the communication, about the sickness killing the Vral, about how they were not monsters but people trying to protect their families. The words poured out like a flood, and Subin did not interrupt once. When Jiwoo finished, she expected disbelief. Instead, Subin was quiet for a long moment. Then she said something surprising. "I believe you." Jiwoo's head snapped up. "You do?" "I am a biologist," Subin explained. "I have studied the Vral from a distance. Their behavior patterns show complex social organization, tool use, generational knowledge transfer, all signs of true intelligence. But Commander Bora will not listen to scientific evidence. She only sees threats." Subin leaned forward. "If what you say about the sickness is true, your father could verify it. He could prove the Vral are not attacking from aggression but from desperation. But how? We cannot get close to them. And the attack happens tomorrow." Subin was quiet again. Then she said, "What if we could arrange a meeting? Tonight. Between your father and the Vral leader, with your friend Kral there to bridge the gap." "How?" "The guards watch everything. Commander Bora would stop us. Then we do not tell anyone. Just you, me, your father. We sneak out through the old water treatment access tunnel. It exits beyond the security perimeter." Subin's face was serious. "This is dangerous, Jiwoo. If we are caught, I could lose my job. Your father could be arrested, but if we do nothing, people on both sides will die tomorrow. Many people. We have to try." Jiwoo felt hope kindle in her chest for the first time in days. "Will my father agree?" "Let me talk to him." An hour later, Jiwoo sat in her father's laboratory with Subin and her parents. Her mother, Minji, looked frightened but determined. Her father looked tired but angry. Angry at the situation, at the stupidity of war, at his own helplessness. Subin explained her plan. At first, Donghyun refused. "Too dangerous. Too risky." But Minji surprised everyone. "We have to do this," she said quietly. "I have watched our daughter change these past weeks. She is not traumatized. She is not scared. She is connected to something beautiful. I should have listened when she tried to tell us. We all should have listened." Minji took her husband's hand. "If there is even a chance to prevent tomorrow's attack, we have to take it. For Jiwoo, for the Vral, for everyone." Donghyun looked at his daughter, really looked at her. You truly believe these creatures can be reasoned with? That they will not just kill us? Kral saved my life, Jiwoo said simply. Every day since I helped him, he protected me. He killed predators that would have hurt me. He left me gifts. He learned to communicate. He tried to warn us. He is my friend, Papa. My real friend. Dong-hyun closed his eyes. When he opened them, Jiwoo saw his decision. Then we go. Tonight, but we bring medical supplies and sample collection equipment. If I am going to risk our lives, I am going to get evidence that can convince others. They waited until midnight. The settlement had established a curfew, but patrols were focused on the perimeter, watching for Vral attacks, not for people leaving. Subin led them through the residential areas to the old water treatment facility. The access tunnel was sealed but not locked. It had been built during the colony's first year as an emergency exit. Most people had forgotten it existed. The tunnel smelled like rust and stale water. They crawled through the narrow space for what felt like hours but was probably only 20 minutes. Jiwoo's heart pounded the entire time. What if Kral did not come? What if Shrak refused to meet them? What if the aggressive young Vral found them first? They emerged in a gully a kilometer beyond the settlement's security perimeter. The forest loomed dark and massive around them. Dong-hyun activated a small light, keeping it pointed at the ground. Minji held Jiwoo's hand tightly. Subin kept watch. Now what? Dong-hyun whispered. Now we wait, Jiwoo said. He will come. I know he will. They waited in silence. Minutes crawled by. Jiwoo strained her ears for any sound. An owl hooted somewhere. Wind rustled the leaves. Then finally she heard it. The soft thud of massive paws on earth. Kral emerged from the shadows. He was alone and he looked worried. When he saw Jiwoo, he made a soft whine and approached quickly. Minji gasped and moved in front of her daughter protectively, but Jiwoo slipped around her and ran to the fence line between them and Kral. It is okay, Mama. He will not hurt us. Kral stopped at the boundary, respecting it even now. He looked at the adult humans with cautious eyes. Dong-hyun stepped forward slowly, his hands visible and empty. He knelt down near the boundary. Hello, he said softly. I am Jiwoo's father. Thank you for protecting my daughter. Kral tilted his head, studying this human who had raised his small friend. Then he made a low rumble and dipped his head slightly. A gesture of respect, Subin whispered. He understands. Look at his body language. That is recognition and acknowledgement. Dong-hyun slowly took out his drawing pad and a marker. He drew quickly. Simple pictures like Jiwoo had described. He drew Vral shapes lying down, sick. Then he pointed to himself and drew a human figure examining them. Question marks. Can you show me the sick ones? I want to help. Kral looked uncertain. He drew in the dirt, showing many Vral. Angry Vral. If humans came to the den, there would be fighting. Too dangerous, please, Jiwoo said. We need to see. We need proof to show the other humans. To stop the attack tomorrow, Kral whined. He looked back into the forest, clearly conflicted. Then he made a decision. He turned and gave a low, complex call. For a moment, nothing happened. Then Shrak emerged from the darkness. Dong-hyun and Minji both took sharp breaths. The pack leader was terrifying up close, but Jiwoo ran forward to the boundary. Please, Shrak. Let my father help. Let us prove to our people that yours are not evil, that we can live together. Shrak growled, but it was not an aggressive sound. It was conflicted, uncertain. She looked at Kral, who made urgent sounds. They seemed to be arguing. Finally, Shrak made a deep rumbling sound that resonated through the ground. A decision. She turned and began walking into the forest. Kral immediately crossed the boundary, breaking the invisible rule. He approached Jiwoo's family directly. Minji tensed, but Dong-hyun put a hand on her arm. Kral lowered his head in submission, then looked back at Shrak. The message was clear. Follow, quickly. The humans exchanged glances. This was the moment of no return. If they followed the Vral into the forest, there would be no guards to protect them. No weapons. No way to call for help. They would be completely at the mercy of creatures that most humans considered monsters. Dong-hyun took his wife's hand. We follow. They walked deeper into the forest than any human had ever gone. Shrak led them through paths only the Vral knew. Kral stayed close to Jiwoo, occasionally brushing against her gently. Protective. Around them, Jiwoo saw other Vral in the shadows, watching, growling softly. But none attacked. Shrak had made a decision and the pack followed their leader. For now, after 30 minutes of walking, they reached a large clearing. In the center was the Vral Den, a massive structure made from woven branches and hardened mud, built into the side of a hill. It was beautiful and complex, showing planning and skill, not something animals could create. Around the den, Jiwoo saw Vral cubs. They looked sick. Their scales were dull. Their movements were slow. Some lay listlessly on the ground while their mothers tried to comfort them. The sight broke Jiwoo's heart. Dong-hyun immediately went to work. He approached the nearest cub slowly, making gentle sounds. The mother Vral growled warningly, but Shrek made a sound that silenced her. Dong-hyun examined the cub, taking samples of its breath, touching its scales gently, looking at its eyes and mouth. After checking 3 cubs, he turned to Subin. "Give me the portable spectrometer." Subin handed him a device from their equipment pack. Dong-hyun scanned the air around the sick cubs, then the soil, then the plants growing nearby. His face grew more and more grim. Finally, he showed Subin the readout. "Spore toxicity," Subin breathed. "From Earth moss species. We brought this here. We poisoned them." "Not directly," Dong-hyun said bitterly. "But yes, the moss we used for terraforming releases spores that are harmless to humans and Earth animals. But to Vral biology, they are a slow poison. It builds up in their prey animals, then concentrates in Vral tissue when they eat." The clearing erupted into chaos. Gunfire lit up the darkness in sharp bursts. The young male Vral, the one who had challenged Shrek, charged directly at the human soldiers. His name was Thrax, and he believed humans were invaders who deserved only death. He moved with terrifying speed, his claws extended. Commander Bora shouted orders, her rifle aimed. But before she could fire, Thrax was upon her. His massive paw swung in an arc that would have torn her apart. Time seemed to slow down. Jiwoo screamed. Her father moved to shield his family. And then something incredible happened. Kral slammed into Thrax from the side. The 2 Vral tumbled across the ground, snarling and clawing at each other. They were evenly matched in size, but Thrax was older and more experienced in combat. He threw Kral off and lunged for Commander Bora again. But Kral did not give up. He jumped on Thrax's back, biting down on his shoulder, forcing him to turn away from the humans. The soldiers stared in shock. A Vral was protecting a human, protecting their commander. It did not make sense. Everything they had been told said the Vral were mindless killers. But this one was choosing to save human lives at risk to his own. On the other side of the clearing, more chaos unfolded. A young Vral cub, frightened by the noise and lights, ran directly into the line of fire. A soldier's finger tightened on his trigger, trained to shoot anything that moved. But Jiwoo broke free from her father's grip and ran. She threw herself in front of the cub, her small body shielding it, her arms spread wide. "Do not shoot. He is just a baby. Please do not shoot." The soldier froze, his weapon aimed but his finger off the trigger. He stared at this tiny human girl protecting a creature that could easily kill her. Behind her, the cub's mother rushed forward, scooped up her baby and pulled it to safety. But before she retreated, she looked at Jiwoo. Their eyes met. Understanding passed between them. Gratitude. Commander Bora struggled to her feet, wounded but alive. Thrax had clawed her shoulder and blood soaked her uniform. She raised her weapon to shoot Thrax, who was still fighting Kral. But she hesitated. The Vral called Kral had saved her life. How could she kill his opponent when Kral was fighting to protect humans? Shrek's roar silenced everything. Every Vral, every human. The sound was so powerful it seemed to shake the trees themselves. She charged into the middle of the clearing and attacked Thrax. Pack leader versus challenger. The fight was brutal but short. Shrek was older but far more skilled. She pinned Thrax to the ground, her jaws at his throat. She could kill him. Everyone knew it. But instead she released him and roared again. A command, submission or exile. Thrax lay defeated. His 2 companions, seeing their leader beaten, lowered their heads in submission. The aggressive young males had lost. Shrek's leadership was reaffirmed. She had chosen peace and the pack would follow her choice or leave. Into the ringing silence, Dong-hyun's voice rang out. "Everyone stop! Please, just listen." He stood in the center of the clearing between humans and Vral, holding his medical scanner. "I know what is killing them. I know why they attacked our mining operations. And I can prove it." Governor Hee-jin emerged from behind the soldiers. She must have come with the military force. "Explain quickly, Doctor. Before anyone else dies." Dong-hyun held up his scanner. "The Vral are not aggressive by nature. They are desperate. The terraforming moss we spread across the planet releases spores that poison Vral biology. It is killing their prey animals and, through them, killing the Vral themselves. The cubs are dying. He pointed to the sick young Vral lying around the den. The western valleys, the sacred hunting grounds we tried to mine, are the last areas where the poison has not spread. They were not attacking us from hate. They were defending the only place their children could survive. Bora lowered her weapon slightly. That is why they killed the miners? To protect this area? Yes, and we can fix it. We can synthesize an enzyme that breaks down the toxic spores. We can clean the contaminated areas. We can modify our terraforming to use species that will not harm them. Dong Hyun's voice was passionate. We do not have to be enemies. We poisoned them by accident. We can heal them by choice. Taemin pushed through the soldiers. His face was red with anger. This is ridiculous. We cannot stop the terraforming operations. The entire colony depends on that moss for soil stabilization. And even if what you say is true, why should we care? They killed my brother! They are dangerous! Your brother died because we invaded their last safe refuge, Subin said firmly. If someone was poisoning your children, would you not fight to protect them? What the Vral did was self-defense. They are animals, Taemin shouted. No, Jiwoo said. Her voice was small, but in the quiet clearing, everyone heard her. She walked forward to stand beside Kral, who had finally stopped fighting Thrax. Her hand rested on Kral's massive shoulder. They are people. Smart people. Kind people. Kral saved me. He protected me for weeks. He tried to warn us. He just fought his own kind to protect Commander Bora. Does an animal do that? Does an animal understand honor and sacrifice? Kral rumbled softly and lowered his head to nuzzle Jiwoo gently. The gesture was so tender, so clearly affectionate that several soldiers lowered their weapons entirely. This was not a monster. This was someone's friend. Shrak approached slowly. The soldiers tensed, but the pack leader made no aggressive moves. She walked to her son Kral and examined him. He had wounds from fighting Thrax, but they were not serious. She rumbled approvingly, then turned to face the humans. Specifically, she turned to face Commander Bora. The two leaders stared at each other. Warrior to warrior, leader to leader. Shrek made a complex series of sounds, and Kral translated by drawing in the dirt. Pictures, shapes, a message. Subin knelt to study the drawings. She is asking if we can truly heal the sickness, if we will stop poisoning their world, if we can share this planet in peace. Dong Hyun knelt beside the drawings and added his own. Pictures of healthy Vral cubs, of humans and Vral living near each other without conflict, of shared boundaries and mutual respect. He pointed to Shrak, then to Hee-jin, then drew them side by side. Working together, Governor Haye-jin stood very still for a long moment. The decision before her would define the colony's future. Maybe humanity's future on this world. She looked at the sick cubs, at Kral protecting Jiwoo, at Shrak waiting patiently for an answer, at her own people tired of fear and ready for peace. She stepped forward and knelt beside Dong Hyun. She took a marker and drew her own picture, a human hand and a Vral paw touching. Alliance. She looked up at Shrak and nodded firmly. Shrak stared at the drawing. Then she lifted one massive paw and placed it on the ground next to the governor's hand. Not touching, but close. A mirror of the drawing. Agreement. Taemin made a sound of disgust. This is insane. You are all insane. Those things cannot be trusted. No, Commander Bora said quietly. She touched her wounded shoulder. That Vral saved my life. I was prepared to kill them all, and he saved my life. If he can choose mercy, then so can I. She looked at her soldiers. Stand down. All of you. The fighting is over. Not everyone was happy with the decision. Some soldiers muttered angrily. Taemin stormed off, vowing to report this to Earth authorities. And among the Vral, Thrax and his companions slunk away into the darkness, exiled for their refusal to accept peace. But most people, human and Vral alike, were simply relieved. The killing could stop. The fear could end. Over the following weeks, everything changed. Dong Hyun led a team that synthesized the enzyme to break down the toxic spores. They spread it through the contaminated areas, and within days, the sick prey animals began to recover. The Vral cubs grew stronger. Their scales regained their shine. Their eyes brightened with health. The mining operations were relocated to areas that did not overlap with Vral sacred grounds. Taemin was removed from his position when investigators discovered he had falsified reports about the Western Valleys. knowing they were sacred but pushing forward anyway for profit. A treaty was formally established. Governor Heejin and Shrek led a joint council. Humans would terraform only designated areas. Vral would have protected hunting grounds. Both species would share the vast wilderness between their territories. Trade began with humans offering medical care and technology, while Vral shared their deep knowledge of the planet's ecosystems and offered protection from the more dangerous native predators. Commander Bora stayed on as security chief, but her mission changed from defense to peacekeeping. She worked closely with Vral warriors to establish joint patrols. The woman who had come prepared for war became one of the strongest advocates for peace. Subin established the first interspecies school, teaching human children about Vral culture and teaching young Vral about human ways. Understanding, she believed, was the foundation of lasting peace. But the biggest changes happened in small moments. Human children played near the forest edge while young Vral watched curiously from the trees. Eventually, they began to play together, awkward at first but growing easier over time. Farmers learned that Vral had domesticated certain prey animals, essentially herding them, and humans helped improve their methods with veterinary knowledge. Vral artisans created beautiful carvings from wood and bone, which became treasured in human homes.